Hello, I'm Anders Munk Ebbesen, Research Manager with IDC Nordic, responsible for all software-related research within the Nordic organization of IDC. I have the pleasure today to talk to you about social media. Social media is one of the key enablers in the ICT industry for the next 10, 15 or 20 years. And in that respect, I will have the opportunity now to discuss some of the issues that are around social media from an end-user perspective and from the perspective of companies who are engaged in social collaboration and social media. I have termed the presentation social media as a game changer because in many ways I think that social media will be a very important tool for companies as we move forward in the IT industry. Some of the topics I will be discussing today: social media as a game changer. I will briefly elaborate on how IDC views social media as one of the 4 pillars of transformation. I will look at social media from the CIO perspective. IDC has conducted a number of surveys in the Nordic region on the adoption of social media, and I'll give you some key insights from that. And finally, I'll talk about social media and big data. How are those two things connected? We think that big data will also be a very important tool in the future. The ability to harvest and analyze information about your customers to use for your product branding, for your product marketing. This will give the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, a whole new role within the organization, and I'll touch upon that as well. But let's move into how social media can be regarded as a game changer in the Nordic region. It's not just a tool for social collaboration. Until now, social media has mainly been a tool for networking between people, between friends. Companies around the globe are coming to terms with the value of social media in supporting product branding and in providing a competitive edge. Several surveys show that social media is primarily used for internal purposes up until this point in time. So it's very much a tool for networking within the company, for sharing knowledge, and for collaboration. But the trend is towards using social media for customer feedback, product branding, and customer commitment. It will become a very important marketing channel, but the ability to analyze social media data will be the one factor that separates the winners from the losers. And finally, we believe that social media will impact the way companies are organized. The CIO will have to work closely with the line of business to deliver tools that allows for autonomous marketing and product branding efforts. So those are some of the key points that I'll be discussing with you today. If we look at how the IT industry has evolved, we can see that we started with the first platform, the mainframe, the terminal. We moved into the second platform in the 1990s with the client server, the PC being the main instrument. And now we're moving up to the third platform. And IDC views the third platform as the platform for IT growth until 2020. And what are the 4 pillars of IT growth? It's mobility, it's social business, it's cloud technology, and big data analytics. So every 20-25 years, the IT industry goes through some sort of transformation. And we're right now moving into the third platform. And by 2020, when the IT industry reaches $5 billion US, at least 80% of that growth will be driven by these third platform technologies. And social is one of the 4 pillars of growth. It's the least mature, but we expect it to be even more important in the future. And I will just give you some of the highlights from some of the projects that we have done in terms of describing how the 4 pillars of growth are actually transforming the industry. We see that mobility project is highly prioritized in the Nordic regions. We see that in terms of cloud services, 40% of Nordic organizations have collaboration applications in public cloud. 50% of Nordic organizations do not measure its hosting results. 2 of 5 believe that big data will not affect them or just don't know. This is something that I'll get back to shortly. And finally, a lot of companies allow their employees to use public online services, as we see down here on social technologies. So these are some of the results from the surveys that we have done. But let's move into further details with regards to social media and how that's affecting it. And what's the CIO perspective of this? We asked 630 Nordic CIOs in the fall of 2012. This is a survey that we do every year to track IT trends in the region. And we found, from a social media perspective, that internal knowledge sharing is the most important benefit of social collaboration. As seen here on the graph over here, we see that networking employees sharing knowledge inside the organization and improving communication inside the organizations are the most important benefits from doing social collaboration. And we also find, and this is quite interesting, that in terms of enhancing customer support, only a few of the companies actually think that that is a benefit of social collaboration today, but that will change in the future. And if we look at the results, same results divided by company size, we can see that it's the medium-sized companies that actually are driving the networking and knowledge sharing within the organization, as opposed to some of the larger companies who are probably more reluctant in terms of adopting social media. Those are the positive things. We are seeing social media being used for internal purposes, but what about the possible threats of social media? There are concerns with social solutions. Security concern remains the top priority. That's not surprising. But what's really surprising and what's kind of worrying for companies today is that a lot of the companies have difficulty measuring the value and benefits of social media. And they also find it difficult to set up a strategy for employees' use of social media. I think that's very interesting, because that really points to one of my key takeaways from the various surveys that we have done, is the fact that companies are not very well equipped to take advantage of all the data that's in their systems. They have lots of data on their customers. They're getting a lot of feedbacks from social media, from Facebook, from Twitter. But how do we analyze this? How do we use this competitively within the organization? That's the whole key issue moving forward. So how does big data and social media sort of speak together? Big data is in many ways the new buzzword of the IT industry. It's like cloud was 4 or 5 years ago. Everyone is talking about big data. What does it really hold? What does it really encompass? More data provides better, more accurate insights into your business. Patterns in data create better models for marketing your products. And more data allows for microsegmentation instead of decision based on average for a whole population. So no more one-size-fits-all. The microsegmented data will provide better healthcare, more targeted sales, better search results, better customer support. So big data and social media, those two things together are very, very important. And it also underlines the fact that the 4 pillars of growth that IDC has identified, they are not interdependent. They are related to each other. So big data and social media are two very important things to put together when trying to move your company forward. So we've asked companies, how do you cope with all that growing amount of data that's in your company? 40% of the Nordic CIOs say, well, we don't have a plan for handling large volumes of data. They either believe it will have limit or no effect, or they simply don't know. While on the other hand, 60% say, well, we are actually dealing with the increasing volumes of data, either by reassessing the current information process that we have in our company, or we can deal with it by expanding our storage capacity. But it's important to note, when we talk about storage capacity, that's one of the things that you have to get in place to be able to handle the large amount of data that's out there, both unstructured and structured data. But big data is not simply about expanding the storage capacity. It's also about having business analytics, business intelligence tools within your company that you can use to monitor, to calculate data, to use that proactively as you move forward in your company. So how are the Nordic companies embracing business intelligence and business analytics as being a very important part of social media, of big data? Well, we see that they are not, in fact, very high on the CIO agenda. You see business intelligence in 2012 and 2011 were not very high on the radar. These are the IT priorities that the Nordic CIOs sees moving forward. It's kind of interesting that private cloud projects, public cloud projects, ERP and CRM, business intelligence are not very high on the agenda. People are very much concerned about mobility and IT security. Those are the top two priorities. From my point of view, I think, though, that 2013 will really be a game changer in terms of Nordic companies embracing business intelligence and business analytics to move their company forward and to digest and analyze the increasing volume of data that social media, among other things, are producing today. So these are interesting trends. I think 2013, when we do a similar analysis next year, next fall, we'll see that business intelligence, business analytics will move higher up on the agenda of the CIO. What does this mean for the internal organization of Nordic organizations? The CIO, in many ways, still holds the power in terms of making IT decisions. But he will be pressured, or she will be pressured, from line of businesses to support their daily operations. So the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, will have a new role in terms of monitoring and measuring the impact of social media. What does that mean for the marketing department? Well, it means, and this is our prediction for 2013, that 50% of new hires in the marketing department will be people with a technical background. You will have to have people in the marketing department who can analyze the data that is collected, and you will have the CIO supporting the CMO in terms of giving the CMO the tools needed for analyzing social media data or any data related to your marketing efforts. So what are the key takeaways from the research that we've done so far? First of all, build a clear strategy for social media for both internal and external purposes. For the internal purposes being knowledge sharing, being collaboration within the organization. For external purposes is to build strong relations with your customers. Customers today are much more sophisticated in what they buy. They are a more complicated consumer. So you'll have to target your marketing campaigns not only towards groups of people, but actually towards individuals. And your whole social media strategy should reflect that. Facilitate relations between the CIO and the line of business. Line of business is not only CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, but also the HR department. They might need the support of the CIO. But from a social media perspective, I think the CMO-CIO relationship is going to be crucial moving forward. Understand that analyzing social media is not just about storing information. Storing information is just one of the elements that you have to have in place when working with social media and when working with big data. You need the business intelligence and the business analytic tools to support that. Social media is a two-edged sword in many ways. It can be a wonderful channel for your product, for your company, but it doesn't take much for the sentiment to change, and you have to be alert. You have to have a response ready when negative things are said about your company in the social media. It can be a wonderful tool for marketing your product, but in an instant like that, it can also be turned against your company. And get moving as soon as possible. Data is king in this industry, and those who learn to cope with this will be tomorrow's winners. Thank you very much for your time.